Hi everyone, and welcome to the Emotional Intelligence Pawdcast. I'm your host, Sandra Thompson, founder of EI Evolution, and I am super excited to take you on this incredible journey. We're going to be exploring the transformative world of emotional intelligence and empathy, guided by some truly remarkable humans and their fantastic four-legged friends. In each episode, we'll dive into inspiring and heartwarming stories about our beloved canine companions. We'll discover the unique and magical bonds we share with our dogs and uncover the profound lessons they teach us about understanding and managing our emotions. From tales of loyalty and love to moments of learning and growth, our furry friends have so much to offer when it comes to enhancing our emotional intelligence. We'll also discuss practical tips and insights on how to cultivate empathy and emotional awareness in our daily lives, inspired by the natural wisdom of our dogs. So sit back and relax, maybe even with your playful pup by your side, and join us for an enriching experience that celebrates the incredible ways dogs help us connect more deeply with ourselves and others. Welcome to the Emotional Intelligence Pawdcast. You're in for a treat. This is going to be an incredible session. I know it. Kerris, welcome to the Emotional Intelligence Pawdcast.
Hi, Sandra. Thank you.
So already I can see your beautiful canine companion featuring. For those of you that are watching the video, you'll get to see a waggy tail and this gorgeous Bella.
I think she can smell there's treats in my pocket, so she's being extra friendly right now.
So tell us.
But yeah, this is Bella.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful dog. And her bed's just there, so we might get some more. Ah, there she is. And she's very delighted. That's definitely a waggy tail for more treats, please, Mum. Thank you. And the ears are up.
There we go. She's so patient. There. Now lie down. Good girl.
So, Kerris, tell us a bit about you before we move on to Bella and her antics and some of the stories that you might want to share about her.
So I'm Kerris. I'm based in Vancouver, Canada. I've been here for about, just coming up 13 years this year. Time has flown, and I'm currently the VP of People at a company called Ting Internet, which is part of a bigger company called Two Cows. But Ting primarily delivers fiber internet to the home in a number of US markets. And so I run our human resources and people function, sitting on the executive team. I've been doing that for just over 18 months now.
Fabulous. Well, thank you. And in fact, it seems that with each episode, we're going to have a number of people who are joining us from the stretches of the globe. So I'm really chuffed that you're on this show. So tell us a little bit then about Bella. Did you get her from a puppy? What's her backstory?
So Bella, we found Bella about 12 years ago, I would say. So not long after we moved to Canada, and she's a rescue. So we saw that she was advertised on the local SPCA, and we went along and met her for the first time. And she was quite timid. She was about, I'd say, between a year and 18 months. They weren't quite sure exactly how old she was. And we took her out for a couple of walks, and then kind of came back and did another session where we kind of played with her in a yard that they had there. And then on the third session, we came back and we made the decision that we wanted to bring her home with us. So they did a really thorough process to make sure that there was going to be good bonding between the family and the pet, which was wonderful. We've had her now for about 12 years. She's just coming up for 14 years old now, so she's an old girl, but still has tons of energy. So we got her as a rescue.
Fab. And how did it work? Was it a case of you spotting her online, or did you go to the rescue centre and had a little look? How did it work? Did you intend to bring her home at some point?
Well, we knew we wanted to get a dog, and we knew we wanted to do it through a rescue. I'm, a big proponent of, adopt, don't shop, in that sense. And so we knew we wanted a rescue. So we went online and looked on their website, and they had a number of dogs there that were, available for adoption. And Bella just kind of stood out. She looked super cute at that point. She had a very pink nose because she was still very young. None of the grey hairs that she has now. And she's got two ears and they stick up, but one just flips over slightly, just like this cutest little ear. And so we were just drawn in by her face. And so we went along and met her.
Fabulous. And that's interesting, isn't it? Because certainly the rescue centres that I'm aware of, it's very much that we're interviewing the family. So while the dog is
Yeah.
there, and of course they want to rehome, they want to get it right, and they want to be certain that everyone in the household will do the best they can, and that there is the chemistry there. There's definitely an understanding and a commitment. So I'm not surprised you went, did you say 3 times? You went back and forth three times.
Yeah. And we brought her home on the 3rd time. And it's, they're looking for the forever home, right? And they don't want to have to rehome and rehome and rehome. And, I know we're going to talk about, kind of emotional intelligence, and border collies in particular don't love change. Like, they're not good with change. And so, especially I think in Bella's case, being kind of part border collie cross with something else, they really wanted to get it right so that she had that forever home, and she, they knew that she'd have a family that she could stay with and rely on. So
do you know what else she is?
No.
Do you know? No, you don't know. Because I think some people actually go off and have like a DNA test of their dog if they want to. And you're like, crikey. But they're called 57 variety for a reason, right? There could be a whole bunch of things.
That's it. I'm sure there's a ton in there. She's very border collie. That's definitely the dominant for sure. Both in temperament and obviously, in her physical appearance. But yeah, we don't know what the additional is. People have kind of speculated, but it doesn't matter. She's just Bella.
Of course, of course. So tell me what it's like to have a dog in the home. Tell me how life is. Did it change everything when you brought the dog home all those years ago?
Well, yeah, absolutely. And I think, she was fairly well trained already when we brought her home. So she was definitely, house trained from the perspective she wasn't going to pee and poo in the house, which is always good.
It was a bonus.
It was a bonus. But they do believe that she was with a bunch of other dogs, and then obviously in the adoption home as well. And so she had some tendencies around guarding her food or guarding toys or guarding her bed, things like that, where she felt very protective over something that had been given to her. So there was certainly some adaptation around meal times and bed times and things like that, which we wanted to accommodate for her. But then, it was just so great that she's slotted in so well to, our priorities as a family. We were very much outdoors, hiking in the mountains, out in the forest, and she just loves that. So she just kind of slotted straight in. But you do need to just make sure that, you have a certain schedule going of when you're feeding them, when you're going to take them out, when you're going to exercise them, playtime, things like that. So, there was definitely an adaptation, but it felt very natural.
And did you know much about the breed before you brought it back? Because I didn't know, for example, that they weren't over keen on change. I didn't know that.
A little bit. My husband had a border collie when he was young, so he did have some experience with border collies as a teenager, I would say, growing up in his family home. So there was definitely some experience there. I didn't know so much about the change piece, but that I came to learn as I kind of researched her breed and tendencies and how we could best care for her.
And isn't that interesting? Because as humans, we're not necessarily always over keen on change. So I wonder what lessons we could learn from Bella there. So tell us a little bit about the stories, anything you'd like to share, particularly what she's got up to, anything that stands out in your mind that could get our listeners thinking about empathy and emotional intelligence a little bit more.
Well, yeah, and I think that, there's probably kind of 3, I would say, key traits that I'd kind of pick up on in Bella, and particular her being a border collie as well. And I think, it's things like, that empathy piece. They are very sensitive as animals, and they do pick up on, how people are feeling. And it's important for us to be empathetic to them, especially her coming from a rescue situation, right? And so I think, when we first brought her home, she was obviously nervous. She was getting used to, being in a new house with new people. It's a lot of change, which she doesn't love. And so just kind of keeping that calm, consistent approach was really important. And just trying to understand. See that little ear? That's the ear. Looks like that.
So for those of you that are only listening to the podcast, just audio, we've definitely got Bella staring at Kerris as if to say, I think you're talking about me.
About
But
me.
one ear, one ear is folded and the other is definitely upright. So I can see that. She's probably looking for treats actually as well, maybe.
I know. Oh yeah, she does love a good treat, that's for sure.
So being patient,
being patient and consistent, I think, was really important to help her through that change, and just kind of keep that, I guess, kind of that awareness of how she's adapting and how she's feeling, and those tendencies she had around, oh, you've given me food, this is mine, I need to make sure nobody else takes it, and just being empathetic to that and trying to kind of help her through it. And at some points, in order to kind of bring her away from that, and I think we've done a pretty good job. Occasionally she'll fall back into it, but primarily she doesn't do it anymore. It's just individually feeding her one piece of kibble at a time, just just to think, okay, here's this piece, and so you just kind of got to adapt and be mindful of what she's going through and stuff like that. And I think building trust is another one that I would really call out, especially as a rescue. Dogs are, I think, pretty much in their DNA is that unconditional love people think of with a dog. And they will do that. But I think, you'll get so much more out of that relationship with your pet if there is genuine trust that's been built over that, period of time where you're just kind of demonstrating that, consistency of behavior, how you treat them, how you show up for them, what they can expect in their daily schedule, things like that. I think just kind of helps really build that bond of trust between the owner and the pet, right?
So let's just explore that for a minute. So you talked about consistency. So certainly I know from Bonnie the dog that lived with us here for a while, she, when the clocks changed, she would be like, right, so it's definitely dinner time. And we'd be like, no, you're an hour early. Sorry, British summertime. And she'd just be like, well, I'm ready now. So is it a routine on time and doing things that are completely as they expect? Or is it something else that builds trust?
I think it's, for Bella, it doesn't have to be like on the hour.
Okay.
She knows that she will be fed as soon as we've finished eating our dinner. And
so
as a family, we would all sit around the dinner table and we have dinner. It might be 6 p.m., it might be 7 p.m. But she knows that as soon as we sit down for dinner, she'll just come and lay up the sides there, just kind of pretending she's not looking at us and not noticing. But she knows that as soon as we've cleared away all the dishes and stuff, she's going to get her food.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter the time so much. But then, with, going out for a walk and things like that, come down in the morning and she doesn't even get out of her bed and say good morning. So she just lays there, kind of lifts one eyelid, checks you out, have a cup of tea, a bit of breakfast. And then she's like, okay, she's been up for a little bit. I'll just go and see if she's ready for a walk. And so she'll kind of come along and just kind of like, hi, I'm here. Don't forget about me. It's like, all right, let's take you out for a walk. So I think it's just that, consistency of you'll get your walk every morning, you'll get your walk every evening, you'll get fed every morning, you'll get fed every evening. You'll get the love and affection when you come and, and ask for it, or even when you don't. So I think it's just that piece rather than the on-time specificity of it.
So it sounds like she's responding to your behavior. It sounds like there are particular things that you're doing that are a signal for her to know that certain things will happen. And that makes sense. So the first dog we ever had when we were growing up was called Rusty, and Rusty the dog would be the same. He would hang around when the table was being cleared because he knew that it was his dinner time. So I get that completely. Is there also something as kind of, and I know this is probably going to be completely obvious, but something around the tone of voice or the speed at which, or the temperament that you have being consistent? I mean, are they nervous
100%.
dogs? Are they nervous dogs? They're quite confident dogs?
They're fairly confident. I think she had built some nervous traits through through her prior ownership and the rescue process. I think she definitely picked up some anxiety through that, and so we had to be very calm for her and make sure that we spoke. And what's the magic ratio? 5 to 1, positive, negative.
Yeah, that's right.
And so really focusing on that positive reinforcement with her, making sure that, good girl, you've done great. This is wonderful. Here, have a treat. Don't say the treat word out loud. She'll get excited. See,
No,
there
she's
she's looking at
staring you
me.
out. Yeah, you better deliver, Kerris, or else it's going to be trouble,
I got
mate.
a, I got nothing in my pocket now. Um, but yeah, just that kind of consistency of positive reinforcement with a calm manner and the tone of voice that she'll understand. And then when she's, she loves being off leash, so it's very rare that I'll walk her on leash. We'll always take her to somewhere where she can just roam free, and she's never run away. She always stays close enough by, but goes off and has a sniff or whatever, chases a squirrel. But she always comes back. But if she's going a little bit too off piste or she's going the wrong way, just a quick, Bella, and she'll recognize, the oh, you need my
Yeah.
attention. I better come back, type of thing. So, yeah, I think just that consistency, and like you say, that it's the tone, it's the calmness, the manner, the types of reinforcement that you're giving them, I think is all really, really valuable.
Yeah. And it's interesting your point around the legacy of what may have happened to her before she
Yeah,
came to your care. Because when we think about humans, of course, we are affected by the behavior of others. And we are
yeah,
sometimes, if we want to, able to articulate what that is. But with dogs, they're just going to show it through their behavior. And you've got to try and
yeah,
understand or be vigilant and to understand what those things are. You're never going to know what really happened, but
yeah,
being aware of it and being able to respond in the most appropriate way is really where the additional trust, I think, and the connection comes, perhaps. What would you say to
yeah.
that?
100%. And it's all that, it's the non-verbal communication, right? Like they don't, I mean, they can make sounds and noises, but we can't talk to each other as regular humans will do. So those non-verbal communication signs are so important to pick up on. And so, it's very easy to see if we're like, certain types of dogs will make her a little bit more anxious than others. And so, if we're out for a walk and there's a German Shepherd, for example, she gets a little bit nervous and I'll immediately see the hackles on the back of her neck go up. And I'll be like,
Okay.
okay, let's walk over this way, because I can see that she's trying to make herself bigger to
Yeah.
protect herself. And
Mm-hmm.
so there must be something in the past that has made her react or respond in that type of way with a particular dog. And so when I see that happen, I'm very vigilant, and I see the hecklers go out, and I'm like, okay, let's walk this way. And I know I can kind of steer her off and kind of reduce that conflict that maybe she's nervous about. So
Mm.
I think that's really important. Again, I think dogs do it very well with us. And yes, they understand certain words we do, but the non-verbal cues that we demonstrate. So when we do a lot of stuff when my daughter was little, the kind of the play fighting type of stuff, and she'd be like, oh, what's going on? Do I need to be vigilant? What, how do I protect? Who am I? So and dogs are very, especially female border collies, very kind of mothering and
Mm.
herding, and want to make sure everybody's okay. She can kind of be the fun police a little bit sometimes, when that's like, get back in line. But yeah, so she'll pick up on those non-verbal cues where, even though there's laughter, she's still seeing that there's, some tussling going on, or some tickling or stuff like that. And she's just, she gets concerned, right? So she just
Mm.
picks up on those non-verbal cues as much as we have to, I think, with her as well.
It's interesting, actually. So while I've been listening to what you said, I was reminded of a particular incident that happened with me. So at the time, I was living with someone who had a couple of children. They had a German Shepherd who also, I think, had a little bit of collie going on. And I
Yeah.
remember it's the whole chasing round in the field, just like it, and running backwards and forwards. Anyway, it was my turn to try and grab Luke, who was at the time, I think, about 10 years old. And Charlie, the dog, was just like, oh, protection. Now, she grabbed my arm. She did it very gently. So she didn't put her teeth through my skin. I would have remembered that story in a different way, right? But she just let me know, we're not mucking
Don't
about.
touch.
Don't touch, don't do that. And
Yeah.
it was fascinating because for a split second, I saw what a German Shepherd could be capable
Yeah.
of. And it was brilliant because you thought, well, now I know. And obviously Luke managed to get away with, like, you know, running around for forever because the dog was on his side. I mean, it's like not
Yeah,
fair.
yeah.
You know, who made the rules
Cheating.
here? Exactly. But just to be in that instinctive maternal, because she's, you know, she's a
Yeah,
female, in that maternal scenario, I understand completely the point about them interpreting something, not always necessarily
yeah,
getting it right, but definitely the instinct is protect, got to protect that child. Yeah, interesting.
totally. Yeah, and even when we'd be out on hikes with my daughter when she was little, and she'd be like straggling along because she's got little legs, and we're climbing up mountains and things like that. And Bella would constantly be running backwards and forwards and just making sure she's keeping the group together and herding us along, and just making sure that nobody was going to get left behind for the coyotes or the bears or anything. Anything like that in the Canadian mountains. But yeah, she's there's a lot of those kind of instincts, I think, that come out, and just being kind of aware of them, and making her feel comfortable. It's okay, we're all together still. No one's going to get left behind. You've got your pack around you.
Yeah.
We're her pack, right? So,
But what a glorious life to be able to run free in some of the
oh,
environment. I mean, I've seen some of the photographs on Instagram, and quite frankly, when it's chucking it with rain in the UK, I'm just like, oh, I can't believe it. This is even more glorious than the last. I can't see why you would live there. But it's like it's like having the biggest, most amazing backyard in the
yeah.
world. I mean, it's a dog's dream, surely.
Totally a dog's dream, and it's the perfect place. And I do find as well Vancouver's particularly dog friendly in that sense. So there are lots of spaces where dogs can be off leash and be kind of running around. They expect good behavior from the dogs,
Mm,
obviously, even on all the
mm,
trails. But yeah, I mean, it's just a phenomenal place to be with a dog. It encourages me to be more active,
yeah,
because she obviously needs. Border collies are working dogs. They've got this
yeah.
this strong work ethic, and they're high energy, and so making sure that she's well exercised is important. And so it's great for my health and fitness at the same time. But yeah, it's the best place to do it. She loves nothing more than being out on the trails,
I
sniffing
bet.
and exploring. Yeah,
So we've talked about trust, and I think, of course, many of the things you've talked about we can absolutely relate to as humans.
yeah.
Anything else you'd like to share about Bella specifically? Any other stories or examples of the kind of things that she does or she's done that makes you think, God, they're so clever?
I think that I was going to say the kind of that intelligence, the smarts that they have, especially as a border collie, is pretty impressive. And I think it helps them to assess situations ahead of time and just be a little bit more prepared when things do happen. And they've got this very quick ability to be able to pick up on what's happening around them, pick up on the best way to respond, and just that intelligence of fetching a ball, carrying a stick. It's all something that I think is very much part of certainly most dogs, but certainly the border collie specifically. So I'd say that there's definitely times where if there's been a disagreement, or if there's somebody that's upset, had some bad news, or like they'll sense that shift in the energy within the house, and be very much kind of like, will trot up and just kind of give you a nudge and just check in on you, are you okay, type of thing. If there's noises in and around the house, they'll kind of pick up and they'll assess whether they're good noises or bad noises. Like, she'll only bark if she thinks there's some kind of danger, or to protect the house. But she knows that there's noises that happen that are good noises. She'll hear
Okay.
the car come back with one of us, and
Yeah.
she'll know the sound of that car compared to somebody else's car.
Amazing.
Or
Yeah.
like, they just pick up on this stuff, which I think is just so smart, and just kind of allows for that richness of the relationship you can have with them as a human being. So
Yeah. Incredible. It really is, because certainly I can relate to that. There can be all sorts of cars parked up outside the house, but they know, don't they? They have this
yeah,
incredible memory So they
Yeah.
must, I'm wondering, I must speak to a dog behaviorist about this, but I'm assuming that they've connected the whole sound with the person coming through the door to
Yeah.
make a fuss of them. And so to
Yeah.
collect all of that as a memory is quite incredible, right?
Yeah.
It's the
Yeah.
whole
That's it. I think
association bit.
totally. And I think that there's, and that's the interesting piece as well, I think, with a rescue dog is that they still have those memories and associations with what it was like before. And maybe it wasn't such a favorable situation that they were living in. But you can course correct that way of thinking, those neural pathways for them to experience things differently. Like they are very trainable in that sense. And so
Mm,
they will very quickly pick up on, my daughter used to, try and do a new trick every couple of months with her or something. And,
yeah.
she'd get a TREAT if she was doing the thing that my daughter would be wanting to try and train her with. And, some of those things, and I talked about the guarding of her food or her bed or things like that. Like you can see if she's getting particularly anxious about something. But that's, we've almost trained that out of her over the years and so they are very smart in that sense. Even though they have those memories,
Mm.
they're able to kind of I guess, redirect that into a different way through training their kind of neural pathways to think differently.
I'm with you 100%. And that's why when anyone ever says to me, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, I come out with a neuroscience saying, actually, I think you'll
Actually,
find that if you repeat a thing a certain number of times, you will be able to teach an old dog lots of new tricks. And I couldn't help thinking of growth mindset as well when you were speaking just then, the choice of learning.
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And they Bella and other kind of dogs like her love that mental stimulation, right? Of being able
Mm,
to learn something new or, whether it's throwing a ball or a stick or something like that in a different direction and just being kind of understanding, okay, which way do I need to go? Oh, you might throw it over there. So I'm going to they love that kind of mental stimulation and that challenge to be able to do
mm,
something new. Or, yeah, like I could walk out in the forest here, like, the mountains here, there's so many trails. And if you don't know them, you could get lost. But I could literally just follow Bella because she's done them so many times now. She'd know at the bottom of a trail, do I take fork left, fork right? Do I know, and or sometimes it's like you could take either, but do we want the long walk or the short walk? So she'll wait, which one do you want to do? The short walk or the long walk? Can we do the long walk? And so they remember the trails and the pathways. It's incredible.
So not only is she an amazing dog, she's also a tour guide. I mean, who knew that that was the
Yes,
case?
100%.
But
100%.
but I just want to dig a little bit deeper into something there, because when we talk about emotional intelligence, we obviously talk about the four domains. We've got emotional self-awareness, and then we've got self-management, and then we move into social intelligence, and then the relationship stuff. But actually, what you've done is hit the nail on the head around knowing that humans are curious beings and we need to be tested, challenged. We need
Yeah.
that. We need that stimulus because
Yeah.
dogs need that stimulus. That's why they trash the joint, because they're
Yes.
bored and they're just like, what can I do?
Yeah.
And if we transfer that into human life, if you're bored or you're not being stretched or
Or
so you're
stimulated or,
all of
yeah.
that. So there's no reward from even intrinsic motivation of knowing that
Right.
you've made a little bit of progress. I mean, you can see, can't you, that as a
Yeah.
species, while we think we're it, the dogs have already clocked onto this stuff and they're letting us know, right, now we really need
Yeah.
to have a bit of a new treat, a new test. So fantastic that you were continually introducing things to her to keep her interested, right?
Yeah. That's it. And I think that's so important because you're right. If they are under exercised, understimulated, ignored, bored, then they'll start chewing, biting, messing in the house, things like that. And you can definitely correlate that back to human behavior, where if they're and again, if they're not given attention and love, like all of those things that we as human need, that we have as needs, if you don't do that in the human environment, then the same thing will happen. You'll get poor
Mm.
behavior, or you'll get people acting up or looking for attention, or, all comes out in a very similar way. So, yeah, just kind of remembering that whether it's, a colleague or a kid or, your brother or sister or whoever it might be, just kind of providing that connectivity in a challenging and stimulating way is going to just reap so many rewards for that relationship, right?
Yeah. You get my vote, that's for sure. Thank you.
Let's do
it. Kerris, it's been a delight. Is there any kind of last comment or word of advice, a clear statement, or anything you'd like to say for our listeners that encapsulates what it's like to have a dog?
Oh God, it's such a joy. Honestly, I had a dog growing up, a big big dog called Monty. He was amazing. And then there was a period of my life where I was kind of, going off to university and, in my 20s and trying to figure out my life and, where do I live and where do I work and all that kind of stuff. So to bring a dog back into the family again has just been such a joy. And she's 14 coming up now. So I know my summers are short, maybe only a couple more summers where we'll get to, do all of the hikes. And so just making sure that, for the dogs, we are their whole life, right? And for us, we just get them for a short period of time. And so we have to really enjoy that and build that relationship with them because it's so rewarding and you get so much out of it. And so I think, just really focusing on building a relationship rather than just, checking a box is just so important because, you'll only get, 14, 15, 16 summers with that dog. So,
yeah.
So that was a bit morbid to finish on, wasn't it?
Well, it was getting there,
deep,
but
deep.
it was deep. But I do think your point around you are the dog's life, is so important. It's so important.
Their entire life. Yeah, and they rely on you for everything. Yeah, for food, for water, for exercise, for stimulation, for love. For play, for all of those things that they need. They rely on you for everything during their entire life.
Yeah. Thanks for coming along to this podcast, Kerris. It's been brilliant, and thank you, Bella, too. Ooh, she's still there. She's twitching her ears. You can go off and
get Bella? Did you have a nice time? Yay.
She's like, what kind of answer do you want? What kind of answer? Great to see you. Look forward to seeing you again. She's up now, wagging her tail like a glorious creature. Thank you so much. Ready for a walk. Oh, you said the word now.
I know.
Yes. Thanks so much. And I look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care.
That's great. Thanks so much.
So that's a wrap. Thank you so much for tuning in. If we've not connected already, you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm on there most days. You'll find me under CXEI Sandra. And also, if you want to find out a bit more about my work, then you can pop along to my website, www.eievolution.com. One final thing, and in the spirit of customer experience and feedback, I wonder if you might consider leaving a review on Spotify. I'll leave that one with you. So until the next time, be well and be pawsome. Ta-ra!